Could Border Patrol agent Brian Terry's death have been avoided? And did the Department of Justice give the murder weapons to the killers?
Did you, Mr. Attorney General, ever authorize gun walking?
I did not.
Thursday, Attorney General Eric Holder grilled on Capitol Hill by the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee and Chairman Darrell Issa.
What can you do to bring this to a close?
I was in the room as once again Holder faced tough questions about the DOJ's failed Fast and Furious program.
We find out you've not fired a single individual. We find out that you have not rebuked any staff members.
I've made personnel changes with regard to leadership positions. We have moved people around.
So an agent was murdered, and your action is to move people around.
Operation Fast and Furious first came to light because of an incident in the Arizona desert. On December 14, 2010, 40-year-old Border Patrol agent Brian Terry is working along the Mexican border when he and his fellow agents spot a group of illegal immigrants carrying AK-47s. A gunfight ensues, and Agent Terry is killed. The subsequent investigation reveals 2 of the guns used in Agent Terry's murder are actually from the United States, part of the government sting operation, Fast and Furious. Approved by the Department of Justice, Fast and Furious allows gun dealers to purchase and smuggle illegal weapons into Mexico. The guns were supposed to be tracked to nab big fish in Mexican crime organizations, but the guns were never traced.
No way to recover the guns except at the scene of a crime or through an accident at some arrest. As a result, it wasn't just fatally flawed, it was fatal to hundreds of people on both sides of the border.
After Thursday's hearing, I sat down with Representative Issa. You say you've gotten 8% of the documents requested, 2/3 of the subpoenas have gone unanswered, and you made it clear at the beginning of the hearing that you would take whatever legal actions were necessary to get the information you needed. What legal action are you contemplating?
Well, we have a series of actions. Our last tool is, in fact, to hold, and as an attorney, you know this very well, hold an attorney or a number of attorneys in contempt for not delivering information required and lawfully ordered by Congress.
They haven't fired anybody.
Virtually no one has been fired.
This week, it became evident that Fast and Furious used wiretaps, which would have to have been signed off on by the higher-ups in the Department of Justice.
The truth may be that the Attorney General and key lieutenants charged with knowing what's in those affidavits, knowing the wiretaps, may have been derelict in their duty in that they signed them, they were responsible for them, and they're going to tell us they didn't really know what was in them.
Agent Terry was killed over a year ago. How long will it take to get to the end of this investigation?
Well, the Attorney General today alluded to the idea that he would actually bring charges in this quarter, perhaps by March.
Congressman Trey Gowdy is on the House Committee on Government Oversight and Reform. Welcome, Congressman. Good to see you this evening.
Good evening, Your Honor. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. When Attorney General Holder said that he would probably bring charges by March, against whom and what charges?
Well, I assume he's talking about murder charges related to the death of Brian Terry.
But 2 people have already been indicted.
Well, there may be others. He's certainly not talking about charges within the Department of Justice, and he's not talking about the straw purchasers. They were indicted several months ago. So the only thing I can think of would be others that may have aided and abetted or been complicit in the murder of Brian Terry.
And you know, Congressman, it's interesting because it has been 14 months since Brian Terry's death. There was a federal indictment for murder, and yet the case still hasn't come to trial. Congressman, you were a sitting DA, as was I. You were a United States attorney. Number one, have you ever heard of a whole file being sealed? And number two, 14 months to take a regular murder trial case to trial?
No and no would be the answers to those 2 questions. You know, there's a speedy trial clock in federal court. You have to try it within 70 days or get permission from the court to do otherwise. I want him to do a phenomenal job with whoever murdered Brian Terry. I also think it's important for him to not use that prosecution, which we all support, as some kind of subterfuge for not answering our questions when it comes to Fast and Furious.
All right. Now, what came out this week, Congressman, was that there were wiretaps apparently on March 15th, federal prosecutors assigned in Washington. What does this tell you? I mean, doesn't it tell you that justice in Washington knew?
Well, it is the single best piece of evidence, Judge, that we have that they knew, because as you know, with wiretap applications, they are wordy, they are lengthy, they are detailed, and Main Justice in Washington has to approve these Arizona wiretap applications. What the Attorney General also knows is that Chairman Issa and myself and no one else on the Oversight Committee can have access to those wiretap applications. They're under seal. I would be willing to bet you whatever you want to bet that if you and I could get our hands on those wiretap applications, it would be crystal clear to the reader that gun walking was the tactic, which is one reason they will never turn it over to us.
Without a doubt, Congressman, I am totally with you. Congressman Gowdy, thanks so much for being with us this evening.